I'm fine, precious. Good morning.
So we're trying to test your mic. Can you be more audible? It sounds quite low from my end.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's
Is it
better. It's
better?
better. Hello?
Oh, yes, I can hear you fine.
Nigeria is facing an education crisis, one that begins in our primary and secondary schools, the very foundation of our nation's future. Over 20 million Nigerian children are currently out of school. That is 1 in every 5 school-age children in sub-Saharan Africa. And many of those who do attend school are not learning. My name is Molade Adeni, and I am the CEO of Teach for Nigeria. Teach for Nigeria exists to address the deep-seated educational inequities affecting millions of children across the country. As a non-profit organization and part of the global Teach for All network, we are committed to ensuring that every Nigerian child, regardless of their socio-economic background, has access to an excellent education. As a country, we have come a very long way, and we have made giant strides when it comes to education access and equity. This has been possible through collaboration with the public and private sector. However, we still have a long way to go. Children and teachers still face a host of interconnected challenges that significantly hinder learning and teaching. Some of this include overcrowded classrooms, lack of basic infrastructure such as chairs, tables, toilets, lack of learning materials that are scarce in some places. The result is a learning crisis. Children go to school but leave without the skills needed to succeed in life. At Teach for Nigeria, we believe that addressing these challenges requires investment, reform, and a renewed societal commitment to treating education as a national policy.
Moving around, moving around, moving around. The basket of number is moving around. What number is this? Or careful, don't let that easy.
I remember my first day in classroom with my learners. I noticed that some of my learners could not identify letters, some could not read, and some could not even speak English fluently. I saw it as a call to responsibility, and I saw the need to do my best while I'm with them.
Your confusions are, all I know is that I am going to do great.
My name is Titilola Amosun, a 2024 fellow at Teach for Nigeria.
We have a strong belief that no child should be left behind. And that's why inclusive education is at the very heart of what we do. Our fellows are breaking barriers, they're using innovative teaching methods and advocating for policies that support children with disabilities and learning difficulties.
Something, you are awesome.
At Teach for Nigeria, we recruit exceptional Nigerian graduates and professionals through a highly competitive process to serve as full-time teacher leaders in underserved public schools for 2 years. Our fellows undergo intensive training in pedagogy, leadership, and community engagement. Since our inception in 2017, Teach for Nigeria has placed over 2,400 fellows in more than 600 low-income schools across Lagos, Ogun, Kaduna, and Oyo states, impacting the lives of over 300,000 students. We have an army of
Good morning,
over
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
as well as
Thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you join us for today's conversation. Good morning. I'm Precious Mo, and I'll be moderating today's session. Thank you so much. If you're joining us on Zoom, you are welcome. If you're joining us on YouTube, you are welcome. It is such a delight to have you here. And if I say so myself, this is the best place that you could ever be on a Saturday morning. And it's not just any Saturday morning. It's the Saturday morning before the International Women's Day 2026. I think that's why I'm particularly excited. So please tell us where you are joining from. Um, Double thumbs up and kudos if you are a woman, and tell us what your expectations are for today's conversation. Thank you so much. If you're joining us again on YouTube, warm welcome, get settled, get a cup of coffee, and yeah, be ready because you are in for a ride today. We are in for a bounty of insightful conversations and of course learning. Today's conversation is brought to you by Teach for Nigeria, but it's focused on the International Women's Day, which is tomorrow. And permit me to say, Teach for Nigeria is one step ahead, with driving conversations, insightful conversations for girls and women across Nigeria. So I'm tempted to ask our audience what the theme for this year's International Women's Day is. I think I'll do that. So if you are aware, please don't check your phone. Please don't Google it now. Just type in the chat what the theme for this year's International Women's Day is, and how relevant you find it. So your name, where you're joining in from, what your expectations are for today, and of course, how excited you are about this year International Women's Day. I'm also expecting responses from the men in the room. So please tell us. We look forward to hearing it. Special greetings to the esteemed board of Teach for Nigeria. Also, of course, the ambassadors, distinguished ambassadors of Teach for Nigeria, our Chief Executive Officer, Molade Adeniyi, and of course, every delectable member of the Teach for Nigeria team. It is such a pleasure to have you join us, and thank you so much for joining us on today's meeting. If you're joining from anywhere and you're not sure why you're here, you probably saw the link on a WhatsApp group. This conversation is brought to you by Teach for Nigeria, and for the next 57 minutes, we'll be driving a conversation that is focused on the theme, the official theme for Teach for Nigeria. So I'm not sure if we have responses already, but I hope you guessed it right. Our theme for the International Women's Day 2026 is rights, justice, and action for all women and girls. Rights, justice, and action for all women and girls. And again, I would really, really, really love to listen and learn about how relevant you think this is, how relevant you think this is. So for today's conversation, our theme is focused on from classroom to community, women leading education, justice, and change in Nigeria. Of course, I'm not doing this alone. I'm tempted to dive right into unveiling our speakers for today's session, but I think I'll just pump my brakes and I'll let the video, yes, we have a video I would like you to watch, and this video gives just a brief insight into the work that we do at Teach for Nigeria, our commitment, as part of our commitment, to advancing justice, as part of our commitment to advancing rights, justice, and action for all women and girls. We have a video that gives you an insight into all of what we do, just an insight into what we do, and of course, to set your expectations for the conversation that we are having for today. Media, if you are ready, we are ready.
When I got to my placement school, I observed a lot of issues with the girls. Many of them, they have this uncared attitude. And I also observed that some of them, they don't really take care of their health generally. I was touched and I feel like, let me find a way of helping these girls.
What are the challenges for girls are there in this community in general?
Finance. If the finance is not there, it will affect them. There is no way we can rule out finance. And then the society, the way the society is helping it out, the encouragement from the society.
I joined Let the Girls Thrive. I was empowered. So when I got back to my placement school, I started a girls club where I empowered them. Many of them are also shy. They are not confident. So I started up by educating them on confidence building, leadership, then teaching them women's craft skills, knitting, bead making, paper crafts. This has helped these girls so far. And we also gave them my journey journal because we observe some of them are lacking behind in their academics. The Teach for Nigeria fellows, back in our SS1 class, they were given a back to school gift of exercise books, pens, socks, mathematical sets, calculator. Before, learning was not even conducive and was not enjoyable. But now that we got the chairs and tables, learning was now enjoyable for us.
Overall, the energy in the school with girls' education and Let Girls Thrive has been very, very rewarding to experience and see.
So much. Thank you so much. I love this video so much because one of the things that it does is that it gives a sneak peek into how Teach for Nigeria is not. So we're not organizing this conversation because we feel like Teach for Nigeria under the Let Girls Thrive initiative has walked the talk and keeps walking the talk. If you're just joining us, very, very warm welcome. There's no better place that you can be on a Saturday morning. This is a conversation that is focused on the 2026 International Women's Day celebration. And the global theme is rights, justice, action for all women and girls. If you guessed that, you guessed right. And our theme for today's conversation is from classroom to community, women leading education, justice, and change in Nigeria. I agree with the theme, and I feel that this is so relevant because one of the most important rights, we're talking about rights, justice, and action for all women and girls. And of course, one of the most important rights are rights to education. And Teach for Nigeria, if I say so myself, is at the forefront of ensuring, that all girls, of course, all children, regardless of where they are, have access to quality education, but girls, ensuring that girls also are not left behind. And we have data that speaks to it, right? With over the 18.3 to 20 million children that are out of school, 60% of them are girls, right? 60% of them are girls, and it drives relevance to the conversation that we are having today. Girls also remain significantly less likely than their male counterparts, than boys, to complete secondary school education. And only 75% of females complete upper secondary education for every 100 males that do that. And this is according to UNESCO. So today's conversation is valid. To take us further, I'm excited. I said in the beginning that I'm not doing this alone. I am joined by three phenomenal women, and I will be introducing them. Our first panelist for today's conversation is Opeyemi Olukosi. She is a Teach for Nigeria 2024 fellow, and she's also, of course, a Let Girls Thrive advocate. Opeyemi Olukosi is an educator. She's a girl child advocate and a fellow with Teach for Nigeria, who is committed to expanding opportunities for girls in underserved community. She currently serves at Onitolo Community Junior High School, Surulere, Lagos, where she integrates mentorship, leadership development, and innovative learning experiences in her classroom practice. Driven by her passion for gender equity in education, she founded a girls' empowerment club in her school, the STEAM Girls, to create safe spaces where girls can challenge stereotypes, build confidence, and explore their potential in areas often perceived as male-dominated. Through mentorship, dialogue, and project-based learning, Opeyemi Olukosi helps young girls see themselves as capable leaders and change makers. Without further ado, and with a virtual round of applause, please welcome Opeyemi as a panelist for today's conversation. Our very next panelist is Bosede Ogidan, who is the programs director at Teach for Nigeria and also the founder of Period Talks with Bosede. Bosede Ogidan is a visionary leader in education, equity, and social impact who is dedicated to transforming learning outcomes and empowering communities. As the programs director at Teach for Nigeria, she drives strategic initiatives to improve foundational literacy, numeracy, and strengthen leadership development and advance systemic change in education. In this role, she facilitates collaboration across multiple teams, optimizes program strategies, and aligns resources to achieve organizational goals. She also serves as a liaison to the program committee of the board of directors and represents programmatic work to key external stakeholders. Bosede is herself a Teach for Nigeria alumna whose fellowship experience in the classroom in 2017 laid the foundation for the leader and advocate that she is. Beyond her work in education leadership, Bosede is a dynamic global voice, transcending borders with her advocacy. At the forefront of her impact-driven initiative stands her brainchild, Period Talk with Bosede. And through pioneering this project, she raises awareness on sexual abuse, menstrual hygiene, and the importance of keeping girls in school. Bosede's impact extends beyond national borders. She's an active contributor to global education networks like Teach for All and has represented her work at international summits and conferences, including the Global Education Skills Forum, Teach for India, Teach for Armenia, and the Fields of Skills and Dreams Academy. With a very resounding round of applause, both on Zoom and on YouTube, please welcome as a panelist to today's conversation, Bosede Ogidan. Bosede, lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, the last but definitely not the least, we have Mrs. Ijeoma Adesanya, who is the founder and CEO of Kobikam Africa. Ijeoma Adesanya is a development professional, gender inclusion specialist, and social impact entrepreneur with over 12 years of experience driving sustainable development through gender equity, inclusive policy reform, and entrepreneurship across Nigeria and, of course, Africa. She's the founder and CEO of Kobikam Africa, a gender advisory and strategy consultancy that partners with private and public sector organizations to advance gender mainstreaming, cultural awareness, and women's economic empowerment. Her work has spanned organizations including Solar Sister, the Rocky Mountain Institute, the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, MTN, amongst others. Ijeoma holds an MSc in Business Analytics and Consulting from Warwick Business School, a Bachelor in Arts in Accounting and Management from the University of Reading, and certifications in Public Policy Analysis from the London School of Economics, and of course, participatory gender audits from the International Labour Organization. She's a vice chair of the WIMBY's Advocacy Committee and sits on the advisory board of the Brighter Girls Life Initiative. Please, with a rousing round of applause, welcome today as a panelist for this conversation, Mrs. Ijeoma Adesanya. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you are as excited as I am for today's conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a warm welcome to today's conversation. Opeyemi Olukosi, Bosede Ogidan, and Ijeoma Adesanya. How are we all feeling today for today's conversation? I'd really like to hear from our panelists. Opeyemi, do you want to go first? How do you feel about today's conversation?
Thank you very much, Precious. And once again, good morning, everybody. I feel so excited because the theme for this year's International Women's Day is like a call to action to everyone out there, especially to we, the female, and also to the men, to let them know that girls have the rights, they need the right judgment, they are entitled to justice, and of course, every one of us has to take action for some of these things to be done. So I feel so excited to be part of the panelists this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I love how you said that it's beyond just talk. I love how you emphasize on action because today we are all about action. It's not just talk. So this conversation is not just about, it's not because we feel like having a conversation. We hope that from this conversation, you take learnings with you and you take action. It's called rights, justice, and action for a reason. Now, over to you, Bosede. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to hear about what you think about today's theme. What do you think about the theme? Rights, justice, and action for all women and girls. What does it tell you? How does it speak to you?
All right. Thank
Especially
you
in the
so much,
context of the work that
Precious.
you do.
All right, thank you. And good morning, everyone. Good morning to my co-panelist. So when I looked at the theme, right, the word that jumps at me is the word all, which means that no child, no girl or woman should be left behind, right? But then you mentioned something earlier that out of the number of out of school children, I think girls have more than half, right? And so when we say right, justice, and action for all women and girls. And that all speaks to me because most times we forget the girls that are mostly at risk and that remain invisible, right? They are not categorized as, all. And so that's what speaks to me. And it then takes me to currently Nigeria has Child Rights Act since 2003. And yet it hasn't been adopted or implemented or enforced across all states. And some part of Nigeria, we still have girls who are undergoing child marriage. We still have girls who are undergoing labor, undue labor. And, when we talk about rights without enforcement is just language, it's just syntax, right? Justice without accountability is just aspiration. Action, like what Olukosi said, action is what we all are being held to this year. And I look forward to how this conversation would expose our audience, would, share more insight. I'm also looking to learn from other panelists. I'm looking to hear from Ijeoma and of course, Opeyemi, who is on the field as a teacher, to see, because, sometimes all these themes being put together, then we look at it in our context. We just realize, is it really, is it really in our reality, so the is what speaks to me. And as much as I'm a panelist, I'm also looking forward to just learn, to just also hear from others. And maybe, the audience have questions that we all too can learn from. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Indeed, justice without accountability is just aspiration. And I also love how you emphasized on the all. Inclusion is important. And before we proceed, I must just mention that we have a you can expect a very rich conversation because we have incredible women from different walks of life who will throw light to not just the United Nations theme, which is right, justice, and action, but also the theme for this conversation, which is from classroom to community, women leading education, justice, and change in Nigeria. Takes me to Mrs. Ijeoma Adesanya. Lovely to have you here now. I'd like to hear from the perspective of the work that you do, from the context of your work with Kobikam Africa, when you think of the theme, rights, justice, and action for all women and girls. What does it mean for you personally?
Thank you. I hope you guys can hear me clearly. I have my
Yes.
AirPods in. Okay. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Bosede. Thank you, Opeyemi, for what you've spoken. I feel like Bosede took the words out of my mouth. You know, just the theme, looking at the theme, we always, every year there's something, right? We have a new theme that we're addressing. But I love the word action here because it speaks to the fact that we're not just saying, you know, this is a problem. How can we profess solutions to that problem? And I think that, you know, when we look at girls and women, we see that that's half of the population, right? Half of the population of Nigeria are women, right? And so when they have no rights or when they don't know their rights, when there's no justice, and when there's no action accompanying the justice, then there's a problem, right? And so with justice, rights become power. So with justice, rights become power. And knowledge is power. And I find that, you know, that knowledge is what is lacking. And so when girls, when women, when girls, when they know their rights, they're able to speak up and they're able to get justice. But justice doesn't happen. It doesn't just happen, right? It must be built and it must be funded. So when I think about my work and what I do a lot of gender inclusion in the private sector. You find that there's systemic considerations, there's a lack of systemic considerations to women at work through inclusion. But then we don't really realize, knowledge again comes in here, we don't realize how much it affects the bottom line of organizations. And so when systems have been put in place to ensure that there's no one left behind, there's no women left behind, no men left, no girls left behind, there's a difference in the morale and productivity of the team. So we found that, you know, when you put in the right policies at work, then women feel like they can somehow, they feel safe, they feel seen, right? So that's from, I guess, private sector point of view. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with you, ma'am. When you said with justice, rights become power, I think that it is so powerful. And I also love how you emphasize that justice must be built and funded. Now, Opeyemi, I'm going to go to you. And I'm curious to know what gender justice in education looks like day to day in your classroom. I mean, you're on the field, you're a 2024 Teach for Nigeria fellow. What does gender justice in education, from your point of view, look like in your classroom and, of course, in your placement community?
Okay, thank you very much, Precious. Can I be heard? Can I be heard, please? Can you
Yes,
hear
you
me?
can. You can be heard.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So, like I said before, that the team we're looking at is rights, justice, action for all women and girls. And so, looking at it from my own perspective in my own class as a Teach for Nigeria fellow, presently serving at Onitolo Community Junior High School, I would say that, like Ijeoma said, many of those girls don't even know what their right is, and it's very difficult for them to get justice. I would take you to the classroom, and my first year in school, there was this other lady girl I met. She did something, and the first time. Then the second time, it started beyond, and that kept me asking what exactly was going on. So I called her. Other teachers were saying you need to punish her for what she did, this, and that. But I knew that there would have been an underlying issue that would have triggered the action. So in the course of asking questions, I found out that she has been constantly being harassed by her uncle, who was supposed to be her guardian. And even the wife of the uncle does not even know. And she doesn't even want to know anything that has to do. She doesn't want to relate with anybody called a male. She sees everybody as an attack to her. And that's really affected her so much. And I knew that she was not even getting justice because she didn't speak up. So imagine you know not knowing that you have the right to be protected, you have the right to safety, and you don't even know that even when you speak up, you need judgment. There should be justice for it. It has really deprived us so much. So I see that in classroom, many girls don't know their rights. That's number one. Number two, many of them that even know their rights, they feel talking or speaking up for themselves might put them at a greater harm. So we just want to keep quiet. And they don't know that when they speak up, they can get justice through different actions that are taken from people and they can be saved. So this is the reality of what happens in our classroom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Opeyemi. I think I agree with you so much. I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day, and we established how that girls faced compounded disadvantages. And just yesterday, someone was asking me, are you guys not tired? We've been doing this for the longest time. Don't you guys ever get tired? You know, for some people, we are beginning to sound, women are beginning to sound like a broken record. But with stories like this, it just affirms the compounded disadvantages, that girls face on all fronts, especially, in underserved community and, the scenario that you painted with your school. I'm going to go over to you, Bosede. How has your experience as programs director and as the founder of Period Talks with Bosede directly shaped the work that you do? How's your experience at Teach for Nigeria? How has it shaped, from when you were a fellow to your role as a programs director? How has it shaped the work that you do now?
All right, thank you so much, Precious. And I think I would start from just sharing what a gender-just classroom means. And, I'll build up on that. I believe that a gender-just classroom is where girls are called on equally. Learning materials show women as scientists, women as leaders, women as presidents. Teachers notice and follow up when a child or a girl misses school, where school provides safe sanitation facilities for girls, right? Where traditional rulers, religious leaders, parents are actively championing girls' education, not just tolerating it, just like you mentioned. Every Sunday is like Mother's Day, Sister's Day, right? But people not tolerating it, but all, being actively champions. And that takes me to my experience, right? Why I'm so passionate about girl child. I think this span beyond, when I joined the fellowship, but maybe I should just, start with when I was in the fellowship. The girls in my class at a particular time in the month, they do not come to school, they start withdrawing. And they were losing confidence. And I initially thought it was an attitude with, public school children. I've never had any experience working in public school. But then I realized that, when they menstruate, they would rather stay at home because they do not have the resources to use. And that was what birthed Period Talk with Bosede, when I had to use my stipend then as a fellow to purchase sanitary products for them. And I realized that just that act gave those girls the trust that I need. I needed them to trust me. And so they could trust me. They could have conversations with me. They could freely share. And because of that, one of the girls that every month, so I have like a record, every month, then I put, okay, you've come to collect your pad this month. And then I noticed the particular girl had not come to collect pad. And that was how we got to know that this particular girl, primary 5 girl, has been raped. And so I followed it up. We arrested the corporate, and then we took it to court and everything like that. That was in 2017, 2018. But what that speaks to me was a gender-sensitive class. Imagine I never noticed, and imagine I never followed up. Probably that girl would have lived with the trauma of saying nobody could hear, nobody heard my voice, nobody was ready to support me. We did the best we could do to support her, but that speaks something. And that mindset, finishing the fellowship, graduating from the fellowship, sort of shaped how I continue to engage girls in low-income communities, how I continue to support as programs director, support all the team leads that I manage and the work that we continue to do, right? The fellowship shaped me as a leader, and working working in a low-income community taught me something, taught me to collaborate, taught me to be a mentor to these girls, taught me to think systemically, strategically, without losing sight right, without losing sight. And these habits or these skills are what has carried me on, even as my, in my role as programs director. So beyond girls, now I manage, the entire programs, different projects, different programs. But what had prepared me for now is what I have seen. And this girl seeing me in class. To this day, I think on my birthday, that was last week, one of the students that was a regular I won't say customer of mine that I always give pads to, reached out to me on WhatsApp. I was shocked because when I was leaving in 2019, I left my numbers to them. So they call me randomly. And she sent me, messages. So they call me Miss B. Miss B, I know I just finished secondary school. I'm like, wow, it's been that long, right? I'm not finished secondary school. So at that time, this girl was working as a maid, right? But the conversation, seeing that there is a woman in that class that sees them. I would never have thought that Taiwo would have finished secondary school now. But I would never have thought that she would have even finished primary school. But as at the time I was leaving, I think the knowledge, the experience, the mentorship, and seeing that a woman in my class is teaching me and is teaching me right, I can also be like this woman. It's something that has continued to shape how I see the work that I do and how I continue to support girls. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I loved how you spoke to actively championing what a gender responsive classroom looks like, and the stories that you shared. Oh, the stories that you shared, I can relate to it so much, because who knows what would have happened, the girl who was a survivor of rape, that could have gone unnoticed, and whilst others, were busy, and it ties to the scenario Opeyemi pointed, it's easy to just throw blames. It's easy to, sit from your high horse and say that this girl is rude, or this girl is a dullard, or this girl is, she's not just able to, she's incapable, but the intentionality and the empathy and the awareness, and also the possibilities for these girls, the possibilities, modeling possibilities, how you mentioned modeling possibilities, and just the nostalgia. I can imagine how you must have felt when she reached out to you. It's been how long now? 5, 6 years? Reaching out to you and,
7 years.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Now to Ijeoma Adesanya, ma'am. From a policy and gender justice perspective, the data on women in Nigerian education is stark, and there's early marriage rates to low female representation in leadership. Where do you believe the system is most broken, and what would fixing this brokenness actually require?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. So I think the system is broken in the implementation of the policies themselves. So in Nigeria, we have certain policies that have already been put in place, like the Child's Act, right? Especially for young ladies. But we find that this act is not being implemented. For example, in about 12 states in Nigeria, there's no implementation of that, right? About 64% of the, can everyone hear me? There was a bit of an echo. Okay. There's data that shows, right, that about 64% of the legal rights that men hold worldwide, women only hold 64% of that. So if men hold, I guess, 100% of legal rights, women only hold 64%. So there's that gap. But when it comes to the Child Rights Act, right, you see that 45% of young ladies in Nigeria are married off before 18. 45% of young girls in Nigeria are married off before 18, right? And so while only 34 states out of 36 and the FCT have adopted the policy, there's still 12 states that are yet to implement it, right? And so I find that implementation is a problem in education, in the Child Rights Act, and in policies generally in Nigeria. And this is where I think action is needed. We need funding interventions. We need to strengthen legal frameworks. We need to empower action plans. I do a lot of action plans in the work that I do, but it's one thing to put out an action plan, is another thing to implement it. It's one thing to put out policies, it's another thing to follow through on those policies, right? And so there's a big gap in implementation.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much. Hi, Mama. I don't know if it's just me. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, she's
Yes,
done.
I can hear
Yes,
you.
yes.
Oh,
Yes, I was
I apologize. There was a lag, and I thought that you were still speaking. I wasn't sure whether to go on or move on.
yeah, there was a bit of an echo, so I was, yeah,
Oh, all right.
I was
Thank you so
disoriented.
much. I especially love how you spoke to how the system is broken and how policy implementation and funding interventions are important. So I'd like to piggyback off that question and ask that you work directly with organizations to build gender action plans. What does that process reveal about how our institutions treat women? And what resistance do you typically encounter as a woman working in the policy space, working in the gender mainstreaming space? You've had experience spanning private and public sector. So what what does our process in our institutions reveal about how it treats women? And what resistance do you encounter as a woman in this space?
And thank you. So I think one of the things that is revealed is that um, gender inclusion is lost to a lot of people. We talk about it a lot, but they literally, you go into organizations and they don't understand what this means and they feel threatened by it. So I think once again, there's a knowledge gap, right? There's a knowledge gap of how it plays out within their organization. And this is where bias comes in. They don't know. Do you get bias is something that you're not aware of, right? It's something that is innate in you, it's something that you're used to. And so it's not obvious to you. And so that's why we call it unconscious bias, right? So telling an organization that the way they've done things is not correct is usually a shock to them, right? But one thing that makes it clearer is data. And this, we need to speak more about disaggregated data because numbers don't lie. When you plug it in, it shows where, the leadership strength is, right? How many women do you have in your leadership, in your board, in your management level, on your director level, right? When you start to ask those questions, when you start to see pay gaps, and it's obvious that, the men are earning 200% more than the women, right? In similar positions, then, the numbers speak for themselves, right? But then there's also something that is very strong. There's a big gap between policy and practice, right? So most organizations have policies around their sexual harassment, their leadership quotas, all of that. But you still see barriers to how women are being promoted. You see barriers to pay, you see informal networks where decisions are made outside of the office and women are not included in that. So these are the issues that, you find concurrent in organizations. So it's not a clear, even when organizations come out and say, oh, we have 60% of leadership, you still find that when you go deep, 60% of women represented, on leadership, you still go in and see a lot of issues within that organization. But then to your second question, what resistance do I typically encounter? I would say is the fear of reverse discrimination. The fear of reverse discrimination. I've had a lot of trainings, and on the call, the men are like, okay, sorry, but can we pause here? Like, why is it always women, women, women? Like, why is that the focus, right? So there's the fear of reverse discrimination where men are now the ones that are disadvantaged, right? And that also comes from a lack of understanding of what we're trying to achieve here, right? It's really as simple as if we're trying to empower, if we're trying to grow as a nation, we're trying to grow as an economy, you cannot have 50% of your population disadvantaged. You cannot have girls dropping out of school in junior secondary and not going into senior secondary. That is a place as well where there's a very big gap in the education space, right? And so we must frame it around how are we expanding opportunities as opposed to, a reverse discrimination. And then as well, how are we improving organizational importance? How are we, and even national performance as well? And how are we redistributing scarcity? I also wanted to speak very briefly on leadership. You find that because we have very low representation in the government level of leadership, you will still have issues like child marriage, right? Because if you look at it, I believe there's only 5% of women on the National Assembly. 5% of the National Assembly is women. That's a very, very low turnout. So what is the expectation of that? The expectation is that the needs and the rights of women will be put at the back burner, right? The rights of women will be put at the back burner. Justice for women, particularly, even within the governmental system, which we've seen and we've experienced in 2025, we saw what happened, in the assembly. We see that happening constantly. And so how do we expect education to be better for young girls if we haven't addressed that, right? Who is going to fight for the young girls? Who is going to push that the budget is adjusted for these young girls? So these are the issues that we're dealing with. On the national level, it's only 5%. So that means 4 out of 109 seats are women, only 4. And they have been pushed back. We've had the gender bills of 2022, and that was rejected. So I feel like there's a place to continually keep pushing for. And the truth is, if we have representation there, then it will be easier to pass these bills, right? So still back to what we're saying. So who is fighting for us, right? Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just listening to you, yes, how you mentioned with the scenario that you painted, I indeed couldn't agree more when you said an economy cannot grow without the equal representation of its women and girls in every sector, right? And we can see the practical disadvantages, when we have just 4 to 5% of women represented on the decision-making tables in our country. It's evident. And hence why I believe that this year's theme and its emphasis on action is very important. Now, I'd like to go to you, Opeyemi. Now, through the Let Girls Thrive program, you are an LGT fellow. What specific approaches have you used to create a safer and more empowering space for your female students? And what has surprised you as you went into this classroom? It's easy to have a different opinion when, before the classroom, what was your opinion? What opinion did you have? And now that you are in the classroom, you're 1 year and some months in, what has surprised you, and what specific approaches have you used to create a safe and more empowering space for your female students?
Thank you very much, Precious, for that question. And as a Let the Girls Thrive advocate, I would say that when I got into the space, getting to know my girls, what exactly does their day look like when they wake up in the morning? What are those things that they engage in? And all of that, and really making findings on certain things that they do to see if truly they are at a disadvantage before establishing that club in my school. So I noticed that most of them are fighting some internalized stereotype, right? Because you imagine a girl telling you that I think, because for me, I teach mathematics, and the myth around, mathematics are meant for the boys, majorly for the boys, and then maybe some other subjects are meant for the girls. But thank God that I teach mathematics, so that has given an edge already that as a lady, I teach maths, and many of the girls will say, I think maths is kind of hard, boys will do better, and all of this. And I asked the question, I said, how do you measure strength? When you don't show that you're interested, you don't show that you can do it, it's a different thing if you've tried and you couldn't, and saying that, I'm a girl, I shouldn't. I don't know if that makes sense. So I keep telling them that, yes, the only way you can get this done is when you try. Let's see what you can do. So most time I put up encouragement. I do mentorship program with them in the club. We have skill development, acquisitions, and telling them that you see it, they are doing it, I can do it. Let me quickly tell you something that happened. as much as I take care of the girls, the STEAM girls, I also manage a jet club. So the first time I entered the jet club, I noticed that I was the only female. There was not even a single girl. And I asked the boys, where are the girls? They said most of them have gone to economics, home builders. I'm not saying that is bad, but what I'm just saying is that they don't want to associate with anything called science or anything inclined to science career. So I just brought them up. That was about 3 weeks ago. I brought them into the club, my girls. I said, we're going to do this together. And you know, one beautiful thing that I saw was that there's a particular group that I had the boys and the girls together, and the boys gave liberty to the girls to hold soldering iron. You know, soldering iron is more like a tool that should be handled like by the boys, and they gave liberty to her. That, yeah, let her do it, and I was so impressed. So I discovered that most time when you encourage these girls, when you push it to them that they can do it, they will embrace responsibility. They will also embrace that leadership that you're trying to see in them. So all they need is just that support. And I was really wild when I saw how they were beginning to show up and do certain things. So it's really amazing. Thank you very much, Precious.
Thank you so much. And kudos to the work that you do. I like how you call them my girls. I like it so much because it shows that indeed you have taken it upon yourself to ensure that to the best of your abilities, every kind of stereotype, you know, is dismantled. And I especially love how you enable these girls, which is really one thing that I took from what you said, enabling them, empowering them, giving them the opportunity. Give them the opportunity to fail, you know, rather than exclude them from even having that chance simply because they are girls. Now to you, Bosede. The Teach Nigeria Let Girls Thrive program is just one example of classroom intervention designed to keep girls in school, build their confidence. What makes a girls' education program actually work? And what would it take to bring that kind of approach to scale across Nigeria?
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, Opeyemi, for the wonderful work you continue to do in Surulere. For us, Let Girls Thrive is not just another girls program. It is part of our program, right? Where we treat girls as a whole person, right? Girls as whole people, not just as academic outputs. For the programs that we run, we ensure that it combines life skills, mentorship, community engagement, and just ensuring that these girls are not treated as, oh, you're girls. Just like Opeyemi said when she was sharing the case of, the Jet Club, right? And so with the Let Girls Thrive, which Opeyemi is also part of, we started in, I think, 2023. So far, we've been able to reach more than 10,000 girls, leveraging our fellows, right? And a few separate programs that truly work for those that truly work not only on paper, right? But it's also this Let Girls Thrive. And then for us, we don't focus only on the curriculum that speaks to girls, but also the community. I like how Opeyemi mentioned that, talking to the girls, she also had to talk to the boys, right? We also encompass the community because we believe that we can't do it alone. So we are so big at Teach for Nigeria on stakeholders. And we believe that for us, just like I mentioned earlier, communities serving as co-creators with us. So it's beyond what is on curriculum or what is on the paper. Right. And for us, we want to scale this nationally, right? Beyond Ogun State and Lagos State, where we currently have our fellows and our Let Girls Thrive fellows who continue to push impact, who continue to ensure that girls in marginalized community have access, equal opportunities to fulfill their fullest potential. So we want to scale this nationally. And for us to scale it nationally, of course, we need locally rooted facilitators, right? We need genuine government integration into the school system. We need equal investment in community. And I think Ijeoma mentioned that, the funding for anything that has to do with girls is like a drop in a big ocean, right? We've seen this model work for us in Ogun and Lagos State, and we're looking forward to, scaling it to the 36 states in Nigeria, including the FCT, where we begin to see girls in marginalized community have a voice, where we begin to see that girls in marginalized community can fulfill their fullest potential. Right, you made mention of out of school girls, right? And then we're just throwing this number around. Honestly, in the next 10 years, this 10 million, this 15 million is going to turn to something else, that those that are attending highbrow schools would also be a victim of what this, because in the next 10 years, these 10-year-olds, these 5-year-olds will be 20 years, they'll be 15, 25. We're talking about banditry, we're talking about all these things. But every time I think about these numbers, and every time I think about the work that we do, like I always tell people, I say, Teach for Nigeria work is just scratching the surface. Because when we look at our numbers and the numbers of people we are trying to reach, it's like we're scratching the surface. And that is why we need the government integration to be part of this conversation. We can talk about girls' rights, gender rights from now to tomorrow, but the truth is we can only do the bit that we can do. And I hope that, we have government people listening to this and see how can we collaborate. We need private-public partnership to move this forward. Without that, right, we will all continue to scratch the surface. But for how long can we continue to scratch the surface? We're talking about the numbers. And in my head, I'm thinking, is anyone thinking about what it will look like in 10, 15 years? And we're saying 10 million, 20 million out of school. The more we grow, the more the number increase, right? And the more we are going to have children, girls they don't have any skill, girls without no education, girls who are probably, just like Ijeoma said, who are probably going to be giving birth at the age of 13, 14, 15. We are talking about, 12 states in Nigeria is moving to us, right? There's a saying, the Southwest is is moving gradually to us. I was driving along, if you're going towards Obalende, there are these young girls. You will see them every blessed day with their mom. They're like 7. They are always seated at that Obalende. And I think I was sharing with Gideon. I said, these are out of school children. And those girls will continue to stay there. What happens to them when they are 15, 20, 25? So I believe that as much as we continue to say this, we need government partnership. We need more women in politics. I was telling Gideon, I said, I'm going to go and get my card. I have voters card where I think I'm going to go and join. We need more women in politics that will continue to push this narrative. Because if care is not, imagine we have just less than 5% representation. Wow. And there is this saying, you can't give what you don't have, right? You cannot understand what you've never experienced. I drive through that road and I see those girls. And in my mind, I'm like, what can we do? Right? And I'm thinking, the government could say that, all out of school children, let's get them to school for free education. All girls go back to school, and this will sort of reduce early marriage, because the truth is you don't have education, you don't have any skill. The next thing you're going to be thinking around, as far as you're ready, you've gone past puberty, is marriage. Give birth. They are not thinking around what happens when I give birth. They're not thinking who is going to take care of the child. And I think it's just the way the society has wired us as women. But I'm going to stop there because I can keep talking about this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I can tell, and whilst you were speaking, this is really such, I get emotional sometimes when I think of this. When I just analyze the enormity of the challenge at hand, because like she mentioned, there are interventions, right? But the current interventions, they don't match up to the enormity of the problem. So then when I think about it, and it's so overwhelming, and I really can just shake my head and wonder what it would actually take in practice. And I love how you mentioned the need, for partnerships, for collaboration. Teach for Nigeria with the Let Girls Thrive initiative, it is modeled already. You mentioned how, it's not a standalone intervention. Every single stakeholder is involved and is actively carried along, from the fathers to the brothers, to the school heads, to the community leads, to the traditional rulers, to the religious, leaders. Every single stakeholder, from the government as well, public and private partnerships, they are important. Now, because of time, because we are pressed for time, because I agree with Bosede, we can go on and we can go on and go on. And I'm sure that Opeyemi and Ijeoma agree with me. Now, because of our time, our final question, and please, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. We'd really love to see questions. We'd really love to see your reflections, both on Zoom and, of course, on YouTube. Now, into the 2026 International Women's Day call for action, and if there's anything that we have all emphasized, is there anything that all our speakers have emphasized, is how that this year, moving forward, we are all about action. And I mean, we have just what? In 2026, we have 4 years before, to the end of Sustainable Development Goal for 2030. So we need action now more than ever, not just talk. What is one concrete thing that can be done this week, this month, because it's International Women's Month? What is one thing that can be done by educators, by institutions, by individuals to advance rights and justice for women and girls? And I think every single one of us has touched on it, right? But what is one thing? Because due to the enormity of this problem, most times we think that as individuals, we think, oh, there's nothing I can do. Oh, I don't have all the money. But what is one thing that everyone at their level can do? What is one action that they can take? What is one action that the fathers can take? What is one action that the heads of schools can take? The heads of communities can take? Across the education institutions, across the workplace, to advance rights and justice for women and girls. So, Opeyemi, I'll start with you, and then Ijeoma, and I'll have us close as well.
All right, thank you very much, Precious, for that question. For this year's theme, like we know that talking about rights, justice, and action for women and girls, and I so much know that most of the time the men out there or the male will be saying, is it only women? Is it only women? You have been saying. And I feel that right now, it's something that we all need to collaborate. Bosede already mentioned that there's a need for collaboration. So imagine if she hadn't taken action at the time when she was in classroom, seeing that, oh, this particular learner who has been raped and all of that, and she didn't do anything about it. Something would have happened to her right now. She wouldn't have gotten to the stage that she is right now, but she was intentional. She decided to take it that this is my own project. I want to see these girls thrive. I want to see how I can bridge that particular gap that they're having. Ijeoma already mentioned that there's a knowledge gap. Many of them don't even know. So there is a need for intentional mentorship. You take a girl, I take a girl, Bosede takes a girl, Ijeoma picks another girl, and we all pick them like that, seeing them as our own project, ensuring that we give them listening ears, because many of them want to say certain things. They are scared. They feel if I talk now, they might this, they might that. They feel like that. Even their silence is something. So you are giving them a listening ear. You are telling them that, yes, I'm here to support you, whatever it is, I'm just here. And they are seeing that you're not just doing what you're doing. There is a why you're doing what you're doing. And they are seeing it. So I want to say that this time around, let's be intentional. Let's give them that space. Let's collaborate with them. Let's support them. But by this, we can get to where we are actually getting to. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more with all you said. Ijeoma, over to you, please.
Okay, so I would say that for my organization, for example, Kobikam Africa, we've been doing gender inclusion for the past 5 years, and we found a gap, right, with the foundation of young girls, right? Everything starts at the roots, right? Every tree begins with the roots, right? And so we went back as an organization back to empowering young girls. So we found a gap between junior secondary and senior secondary for young girls, that gap of them not, continuing on for various reasons. Their family members want them to stay back home. They put the boys forward, whatever reasons. We found that gap, and our goal through our foundation that we've just launched is to close that gap. So what I'm saying to everyone is that this month, today, this week, this month, right, there are gaps that exist in the rights, in the justice for women and for girls. In the work that you do, pick one area, right, based on what you identify, and work to bridge that gap. I mean, Bosede has emphasized, and I think Opeyemi as well, it's a very big gap. A lot of anything that you find will be big, right? But if everyone, right, will play their parts and plug in any way that they can, you can imagine what would happen. And I started off with myself because knowledge is power. You first have to identify the gap, right? A lot of people are sitting down, in whatever industry they're in, whatever space they're in, and they're not looking beyond where they are. So my charge to everyone is to look around you, gain as much knowledge as you can about this issue. Now that it's Women's Month, at least you can give us this month to really sit in and think, where are the areas, and find a way to plug in. I'm not saying you need to set up another organization. I'm saying that in the work that you do, how can you identify an area that you can plug in with the work that you already do? I'm sorry, I know we're out of time. I wanted to say something about what Opeyemi said, right? She said she's a math teacher, and it was already a representation matters, basically. So the fact that she's a female teaching maths means that the young girls will see her and believe that she can do it as well. When I advised an organization that focuses on trainings, right? And I found that their tech trainings, it was only men that did that, right? And they were complaining that they didn't have any women signing up for those trainings. What happened once they started to have more women in those classrooms is that they started having more women interested. One would tell the other, that would tell the other. They started believing that they can do it. And I feel that so strongly that representation matters. So that's something else that we really need to plug into. And I just wanted to highlight what Opeyemi said because it was very, very necessary. But yeah, wherever you are, bridge the gap, plug in whatever you can do with what you have. I'm not saying start something or start an initiative or start an organization, but find a way to plug in somehow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wherever you are, bridge the gap, plug in because representation matters. Over to you, Bosede.
All right, thank you. I think everything has been said. So I have two things, and this is call for action to institutions. First, to institutions. Examine your leadership pipeline in your institution today. How many women are in senior leadership roles? Because we believe that systemic change starts when institutions look inward. And to individuals, find a girl in your life, in your community, invest in her, buy her a book. Currently, they're trying to register for WAEC, they're trying to register for NECO. A lot of girls do not have that luxury. Find someone. You have maids, you have cleaners, you have drivers that have children that are girls, and they do not have the opportunity to further their education. Maybe this is an opportunity for you as an individual to, just like Ijeoma said, plug in into their lives and impact their lives. It might just you paying for their NECO fee. It might just you paying for their WAEC. It might just you paying for their JAM. And I'm going to leave us with this. We need to ask ourselves specific questions. What am I doing currently to improve girls' education in my community, in my vicinity? Because we need to understand that the girls, women, they are not a problem to be solved, but they are the answer. Thank you.
Wow. Oh, wow. I think we could take a second for the last statement you made. Women indeed, oh, that's so profound. You're not a problem to be solved, but they are the answer. Very well said. Very well said. And please, 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 a resounding round of applause to our speakers. I think that they have done justice to this conversation. And of course, to you as well for staying with us till now. So we have questions. We'll be taking questions. Thank you so much, Bosede Ogidan. Thank you so much, Opeyemi, and of course, thank you so much, Ijeoma, for shedding your light and for the incredible work, for walking the talk, for modeling possibilities. We can't thank you enough. I think women like you, are a reason for us to hope and believe that this gender equity would not just remain a dream, but will become realities in our lifetime. The chats are buzzing. We have a question for Ijeoma. Can you elaborate on one specific area you have identified to focus on bridging the gap between junior secondary and senior secondary schools?
Yes. So one area we've identified is advocacy, but I won't speak to that. And when I say advocacy, I mean within the communities and within the community of wherever that school is. But another thing that we've identified is mindsets, right? The issue that we've noticed between that gap is mindsets. So what is possible? We found, in one of the schools that we went into, that the young girls they don't have any access to anything that will show them possibilities, right? So for example, a lot of them are right after school, they go straight to their parents in the market, right? And they wait with their parents in the market until it's time to go home. They get home and then they go to bed, and it's another day of school again. So, in terms of why education is important, they don't know. In terms of who they want to be, it's not really. I think Opeyemi alluded to that as well. The fact that you would find a lot of them just nonchalant, but it's deeper than that, right? And it's a mindset shift that needs to happen. And so what we're doing is we are designing a curriculum that really tailors to the shifts in their mindsets, allowing them to see who they are naturally, what are the gifts that they have, what do they naturally enjoy doing, and what is possible. So with what is possible, imagine a girl from the north watching a video or a documentary of someone who was in her shoes but has been able to advance to a certain level, right? You are showing them possibilities. You're showing them who they can become. You're telling them that it is possible. That is where the gap is that a lot of these young girls, they look around them and they see what the women are around them, and they don't feel like they need any education for that. So it's really a mindset shift from, where they are in their community to what is possible and what they can achieve. Yeah. So that's our main focus. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Ijeoma. Very well said. So because you're pressed for time, I'll move very quickly to Bosede. And I have one question for you, Bosede. What can the men and boys begin to do to create a just and action-oriented community for women?
Okay, so for men and boys, is lending their voice. That's the first thing, is lending their voice. And I'm going to use an example. So I visited a school, I think some years back, about 2 years back, and the teacher was explaining about, it's only girls we're focusing on. I was like, you need to start talking to the boys too. When you're having girls conversation, include the boys, let them be part of it, because they are going to be husbands in future. They are going to be brothers. They're going to be brother-in-laws, they are going to be fathers. And then one of the teachers said something that really, stood with me. She said one of these days she was teaching, and she was teaching in front of the class. And then, she faced the board and was writing, and she didn't know that she was stained, right? And she continued. But there was a boy in the class that ran towards her, with his very tiny hand, and was holding onto her. She was like, "Are you okay? Leave me." I was like, Mommy, no. It's like, what is the problem? And she saw the boy holding his small sweater. I was holding, and then she said, okay, there must be something wrong. And so she followed, the boy was following her behind, and then they went back, and she was like, Mommy, something happened to your clothes. And she said, for some minutes, she stood there, and she was just speechless. But one thing that taught her, because she said she didn't teach the boys that, but she knew that there's somebody at home teaching that boy. And because of that, she included it in the curriculum in her own class, of how boys need to be empathetic, of how boys need to continually lend their voice. The boy did not laugh or did not make jest of the teacher, but found a way to just communicate it to the teacher. So boys, men, they all have a role to play. You will listen to men who tell you, when my wife is menstruating, I don't touch my wife. I've had men say that. Oh, I can't buy pads for my wife. They need to lend their voice. We are all co-creators. Like I said, women are not the problem to be solved. We are all together in this. So we need more men to be ambassadors for girls' education. We need more boys to be included in the conversation when it has to do when over the next couple of weeks or days, conversation about women is going to be everywhere. Ask me, how many organizations, how many of them are owned by men, right? How many of these conversations will men attend? If we were to take a poll now on this score, how many men are here? Aside TFN staff though, because we are gender sensitive, right? How many men are sitting down to listen to this conversation? So we need them to be ambassadors for women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have men of TFN raising their hands. We see you. We see you. Thank you as well done. Thank you so much, Bosede. Indeed, boys and the men, they need to actively and intentionally and consciously lend their voice. So our very last question to Opeyemi, you address a situation where the girl in your class is harassed and the family is requesting that you don't take it up because they want to settle in their way, but you know that they won't do anything about it. This is a very sensitive question. Okay,
yeah, thank you very much, Precious. Thank you very much. And this question is just like something that had happened. You know, from the story that I painted earlier, it's something that really happened in my class. And this is, I wouldn't want to mention the name of the girl. So when I discovered that she was always reacting in a certain way, I started asking her questions. How are your parents? I discovered my mom was not there. Father, who do you stay with? I stay with my auntie. So she said so many things about those people that I've been asking. The moment I mentioned, how about your uncle? That was when she just kept quiet, and I knew that was where I was meant to really, point more of the questions to. And I told her that, yes, you are safe with me. Whatever you tell me is fine. And I also try to come out with some of the experiences that I've had as well while I was growing up. You know, I had my own fair share, or my parents, this is the kind of parent I came from, the kind of family I came from, and this is how I grew up in the midst of this, in the midst of that. I made her feel comfortable that, okay, so whatever it is that you're saying, I've been there. I may have not have the same experience as you, but I understand how it feels. So I made her settled in mind. And eventually she told me what I've been going through. And I told her that nobody will speak for you. You need to speak for yourself, because the uncle said you are going to stop schooling the moment anybody hears it. And I told her, yes, you will stop schooling, because the moment you get pregnant, that would truncate your journey. You might make it in life later, but you know how it will seem like the trajectory has been shortened in a way, and it will not be a good story. So I told her, you need to speak up. I kept on encouraging her, motivating her. Eventually, she told me that day that I want to talk. I said yes. So I took her to the year to talk, and we met with the principal, and there was a way they just summoned the guidance and narrated the whole thing to her, and she said she was going to really address the whole situation. Now, yes, they really addressed the situation in their family. But one thing I want to say is that there is a consciousness on the mind of whoever wants to really harass seriously, because now they know that somebody knows. They know that somebody has heard about the story, and that is already giving the protection to the girl. So you can't say, because I don't want my family to be scattered, okay, that's what they want to do. Yes, it's your thing to talk and take care of your family, but the girl should be protected. Whatever you want to do, I don't care, but this girl should be protected. And it's been a wonderful story, because she's lively now. I keep asking her, people, Alpha, oh, sorry, I already mentioned that name, just this guy. So how is it going there? Is anybody harassing? She's saying, no, ma, and she's so happy. And I still have a very good rapport with the auntie. We talk, we still spoke yesterday, and she's telling me, favor, this girl is doing very well, this and that. And I'm so happy. But I had to step in, and if I had not encouraged her to talk, she wouldn't have spoken. So let's tell them that they should raise their voice. Nobody should tell them to keep quiet. Nobody should tell them that, oh, the moment you do this, I will do this. People are there to support. If Bosede stood for somebody who was constantly raped and the culprit was arrested, I feel that many women out there who has listened to this webinar, and many men out there too, they can put a stop to whatever is going on, and they can address the situation properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I could go on. Thank you so much. And yeah, just well done. Very well done. Very, 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 very well done. And I think this just speaks to the relevance of the work that Teach for Nigeria does. It's beyond the classroom. It is beyond the academic performance, which is very important, I must say. But having you as a steward of all that you believe in, and having you and walking the talk and really acting out, it's it's really it's like music to my ears. And yeah, I must commend you. And I'm sure everyone agrees with me on the call to say well done for the work that you have done. Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much to all our panelists. Thank you for sharing this conversation. I'm sure I had a very rich and rewarding experience, and I'm sure that everyone agrees with me. Now, because we are pressed for time and we apologize for overshooting, and it's my honor and my pleasure to welcome our Chief Executive Officer, who is a man. Ijeoma mentioned how that, women, enough women to not occupy the leadership positions in the organization. And I can tell you for a fact, that Teach for Nigeria is not one of those organizations. Molade would love to have you for your closing remarks and to close it off. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, because just at the point where you called me, my internet decided to have a mind of its own. I think I am on now. Oh wow, what can I say? What can I say? What can I say? A very, very big thank you, first of all, to our amazing, amazing panel. I think you will agree with me that I didn't want the conversation to stop. I wanted the conversation to continue, and I wish we had more hours in the day for us to continue this conversation. But they have set an amazing, amazing chart for all of us. So a big thank you to Ijeoma, a big thank you to Bosede, and a big thank you to Opeyemi for honoring our invitation and for joining us with this important discourse. You have truly spoken about rights, justice, and action. And I think that those are the three key things that we felt were important as part of the United Nations Women's theme for the International Women's Day. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You have embodied, these actions through your work, through your leadership, through your courage. Truly exceptional to hear you share those examples, to talk to us about what it means, and to really charge us what must we start doing. There was something that was discussed, which was really around why this equity conversation. I think we talk about it every year. And I like to say that this is a conversation not just to say we don't need men. We need both genders. I think that is the conversation. I liken it to, imagine if they told you to get on a plane. You are flying somewhere, but that plane only has one wing. How many of us are going to get on that plane? We're going to be like, you know what? I don't trust the fact that this plane is going to get me to where I need to be. And I think that's what we do when we don't have these necessary conversations about equity, and we don't bring women into the conversation. We don't give women the opportunity. It's like flying a plane with only one wing. There is no way that plane will get you very far. It might not even get you up at all. So today's discussion really reminds us of a very important truth. And I think Bosede and Ijeoma shared this very beautifully, that rights do not enforce themselves. Justice does not advance on its own, and action does not happen by accident. To move forward, there needs to be intentionality. We all need to decide not to be silent. And I saw someone in the chat box saying, we will not be quiet. We will continue to speak about this, but not speaking about this because, it is not from a we want to win perspective. It's because we believe that this is what is right, and will move us to where we need to be. I teach for Nigeria, and I'm so proud of Opeyemi as she shared her story and the work that she does in the classroom. We see every day how these three words of rights, justice, and action intersect in the lives of girls around classroom. If we look at our vision and our mission, it's justice for every single child, really. That regardless of their background, regardless of their gender, regardless of where they're from, every child should have the opportunity to learn and to thrive. And when we talk about collective action, it takes teachers, it takes parents, it takes policymakers, it takes communities, it takes the government, it takes you and I to make that a reality. But the conversations like this cannot stop. This webinar was a great start. and I'm sure there'll be many more over the course of the next few days. We must move from talking to action. And the real question, which is what Precious asked, our panelists, and I want to pose again to each of us today, is what will you do differently tomorrow because of what you have heard today? What will you do differently in your spaces where you are tomorrow because of what you have heard today? Will you speak up where injustice has become normal? Because there's some things that we just see as normal. We see those girls on the side of the road and we see nothing. We see the boys on the side of the road and we see they're just things that we have accepted as normal. And when Ijeoma spoke about advocacy is not more than that. Advocacy is really about spotlighting what we're seeing that isn't normal and advocating for us to do better, challenging ourselves to do better. Would you open the doors for the next generation of girls and women? I'm speaking here to all the men and all the women on the calls. Bring one girl behind you. They say when you rise, who is that next woman that you're bringing alongside you? Ijeoma spoke about representation. I don't want to be the only woman in the room. I don't want to be the only woman in certain rooms. I want to be able to bring alongside with me others who can champion and do even more than I can. Challenge systems that quietly limit potential in your workspaces, in your churches, in your mosques, in your community. Let us challenge those things that we see. If your neighbor's child is not going to school and they're using them to go to the market, have a conversation with them. Don't just say, oh, is their lives, and it is their lives. No one is asking you to fight. We're not asking you to bring out the boxing gloves here, but we're asking you that, from Ijeoma mentioned that knowledge is power. For many, they don't have the knowledge to be able to help them make informed decisions. And more importantly, invest your time, invest your influence and resources into building a more equitable society. Girls don't have sanitary pads. If you can, sponsor and donate sanitary pads to girls in school. There are girls that don't have certain materials and things that they need. I think the little things we take for granted. There are many schools still, and you know what? Let's to be sure, the government has done a lot in many, many states, but there's still just a long way to go. There are schools where there isn't running water. So imagine a girl on her period coming into a school and no running water. What does that mean? How does that look? What means is that girl will not come to school during her period and she misses 3 to 4 days of school consistently every month. So it's little things like this. So yes, it is International Women's Month, and there's going to be a lot of talk, but progress is never about 1 month. Progress is not about this month of March. It's a daily work that we must all work courageously and choosing action over comfort. Ijeoma and Bosede pushed that. It's action, action, action. So as we leave here today, my hope is very simple, that each and every one of us will become, and I found this quote which I love, so please allow me to read it. It says, each and every one of us will become architects of a future where no girl's dreams are constrained by her gender, her background, or circumstances of her birth. I'll read that again. That each of us will become the architects of a future where no girl's dreams are constrained by her gender, her background, or circumstances of her birth. And this is a future that we're looking to build here at Teach for Nigeria. A generation of girls that will not fight the same battles that we are fighting today. We must fight it today so that tomorrow they are not fighting. The future will not arrive on its own, my people. We must build it and we must build it together, men and women alike. So on that note, again, I want to say one more thank you. Thank you to all of our amazing panelists. You have been phenomenal. Ijeoma, we called you at the last minute. You showed up and you showed out for us. We appreciate you and we appreciate your support. Opeyemi, it's because of fellows like you that we continue to do this work. And I'm so proud that you're a Teach for Nigeria fellow and continue to champion girls' education. And Bosede, our amazing programs director. A lot of the magic you see is because of Bosede's leadership and Bosede's courage and continuing to stand up and speak the truth. So thank you everyone who joined us on a Saturday morning to have this very important conversation. I look forward to hearing how we will continue to push this forward and how we will truly drive to a world where every Nigerian child has the opportunity to access an excellent education. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bolade. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. Thank you so much. Very well said. I think all that you said is the perfect way to end this conversation. When you rise, who is that girl that you are bringing along? Thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much to our audience for being, yeah, well done, for being a for staying engaged and for all the comments, all the questions, all the reflections across YouTube and on Zoom as well. Thank you so much. I'm tempted to ask about reflections, but we are pressed for time. We are pressed for time. Thank you so much for joining us. So we have some announcements to make. And if you're wondering, in case you just dabbled into the conversation, clicked on the link randomly, and you're not sure what Teach for Nigeria represents, please ensure that you give us a follow across all social media platforms. We are Teach for Nigeria. On X, we are Teach4 Nigeria. And of course, our website, www.teachfornigeria.org. Now, very quick announcement. I'll start with our fellowship application. So wonderful women like Opeyemi are able to do the work that they do because, through the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship, that is, our pipeline, through which leaders who are on the forefront of ensuring that every child has access to an excellent education. That is the pipeline that Teach for Nigeria has, and our applications are currently on. Our theme, One Vision, Endless Possibilities. We need more women, of course, men, like Opeyemi in the classrooms, in the community. So please, you can apply now at www. Instagram, X, and we will be sure to respond to you. So please, yeah, you can do more. If you're looking for a way to do more, then the fellowship is just the right option for you. And also we have a girls sports tournaments, right? I think for Nigeria, I've been saying it. We're not just saying it. We are not just gender inclusive or gender responsive on paper. We walk the talk. And to prove this, we have organized, Teach for Nigeria has graciously organized a girls sports tournament where we are convening over 500 girls in public schools aged 9 to 17 to compete. Sports is male dominated, right? And of course, beyond the classroom, as the theme says, winning beyond the classroom. One of the objectives of this tournament is to give these girls a platform to rise and shine beyond their academic performance. It's in Ogun State on Tuesday, March 17 at the MKO Abiola Stadium, Abeokuta. And we are open to sponsorship and partnership to make it happen for these girls in underserved communities. So please call the number on the screen, or again, send a message to us on social media, across social media. Go to our website, send us a message. We are looking for, you need a way to sponsor, you're looking for a way to become part of what we are doing. Our DMs are open, our emails are open, and we look forward to receiving you. Again, thank you so much. We have come to the end of today's conversation, and we hope that you would actually take action. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying with us now. And to everyone who celebrates, and everyone should celebrate, happy International Women's Day. Please, to the men in the room, ensure that you especially treat a woman nicely. Get out of your way and blow our minds away. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.